MAGA Republicans have created the largest wealth class in the history of humanity while increasing poverty, while telling me that they love the Jesus. The same Jesus that I grew up believing in.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I wanted to talk to you about some more general stuff. You know, you're on the Talkers Magazine Heavy 100 list, and a lot of what you talk about is politics and the kind of the news of the day. And I'm curious what you're making of the first 6 months of the Trump administration, and maybe even more than that, I'm interested in what your understanding is of your audience's reaction to it.
Well, I think my audience was prepared. And I get this from people all the time of, hey, Rick, you were right. Oh, my God, we should have listened to you during the election. Because nothing that's happened thus far has really been surprising, especially considering they wrote it all down in Project 2025. So we knew it was coming. We knew labor was going to be front and foremost in the attacks. We knew AFGE and the federal unions were going to be first in the canaries in the coal mine, so to speak. We knew what they were going to do with the Department of Labor, and they've done exactly what they were going to do. We're going to gut OSHA. We're going to gut MSHA. We're going to gut all protections. We're going to deregulate, push for privatization, going to go after the Department of Education, going to do all this stuff. So no one can possibly go, oh, I didn't know this is what they were going to do, or this isn't what I voted for. No, this is exactly what you voted for. And you're getting exactly what you knew was coming. So if you're in this moment and you still think that you're on Trump's side, then you're okay. What I'm getting from people is a lot of buyer's remorse. I just wanted cheaper eggs. I wanted cheaper gas. Guess what? Eggs ain't cheaper and gas ain't cheaper. But you know what is happening? A lot of supports that a lot of working people need, like Medicaid. In my situation, my wife's going to be on Medicaid at some point. Cutting almost $1 trillion from that is going to harm working families in irreparable ways. And we're going to see that. So on election night, I said, and I've been saying it since election night, the solutions for our future are going to come out of the suffering due to their savagery. We're watching their savagery. That big nightmare bill is pure evil savagery. It's anti-Jesus on steroids, brought to us by people who love the Jesus. And for me, I think we have to go through this. I think as a people, we have to go, yeah, we're going to get beat up a little bit. We haven't hit rock bottom yet. And maybe then you go back to the old labor frame. When stomachs get empty, heads get right. I think that's unfortunately where we have to go.
It really is unfortunate that seems like where we're heading. I mean, one of the starker bits of data about that bill that is going to stick with me forever is that if you take away all the tax cuts for people that make over $500,000 in a year, which is like, you're doing really good if you're making $500,000 a year. If you take away just the tax, you keep it for literally everybody else. Everybody else keeps the same tax cuts. You remove it for people making over $500,000 a year. You can remove all of the cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, and the impact on the deficit is exactly the same. And so it really shows you how much of this bill is just taking money from the poorest people in the country and giving it to the richest people in the country, and still making the deficit even worse, which is the biggest kind of crazy thing to me, that they were able to make this happen. Because, the whole reason supposedly for wanting to do these big budget cuts is, to protect, we got to bring the deficit down, Well, you cut taxes so much that it's not going to bring the deficit down. It's going to make it worse, and poor people are going to be worse off. It's literally the worst of both worlds. And I don't know how, they kind of live with themselves, the people who voted in favor of this.
Well, they eat fairly well. They're not the ones who, when they go to the cupboards, like when I was a kid, you go to the cupboards, there's nothing there. They're not the ones who are going to have to look their children in the eye and know that their children are hungry. They're not going to be the ones who have to look at the veterans who are going to still be homeless. They're not the ones who are going to have to deal with veterans who aren't going to get the care that they need because they're cutting more people from the VA. They're not the ones who have to deal with the unwashed masses, the rabble. Us, we the working class, we're good enough to clean up, and we were essential when they needed us. But we're moving towards post-human. We're going to AI and robotics, everything's going to be automated. Don't need dirty workers anymore. So this is predictable. And look, they ran on this stuff. We knew what they were going to do, and every time Republicans get power, what do? They enrich the wealthy. And look, I'm not, the Democrats mess up a lot too, but they're not the Republicans who have created the largest wealth class in the history of humanity while increasing poverty, while telling me that they love the Jesus, the same Jesus that I grew up believing in, who said that, you feed the hungry, you clothe the naked, you give shelter to the homeless, care for the sick, the poor, the downtrodden. The only time you saw any anger is when he flipped over the tables with the money changers. And you got money changers who evidently the new Christian Jesus would be enriching them while kicking poor people and lepers to their curb. Because I guess the only thing I can come up with is they want poor people to meet Jesus faster. So if they die sooner, they can go to heaven faster. We can clear out all these poor people, all these disabled people, all the folks who are draining our system. But we're going to keep the billionaires. We're going to keep the Musks and the Bezoses and those folks because, of course, we need them. They do all the work.
Right.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Well, when I was growing up, I grew up in a very conservative evangelical type of faith community. But fortunately for me, it was not a political community. And in fact, most of the congregation didn't vote. Like as a matter of, it wasn't necessarily like from the pulpit, you shouldn't vote, but it was kind of that sort of thing. Like it's kind of worldly to vote a little bit. And so fortunately the politics weren't super important to them. But, a lot of the people that I grew up around, they were conservative and they were conservative politically. And some of the things that are happening right now are things that they would have advocated for, like immigration enforcement or maybe, less welfare or whatever. But there was at least like a facade that, this is, it's kind of like this is just the way that it has to be. And we need to feel sorry for them we need to feel sorry for the poor people as we're making them poorer, or we need to feel sorry for the immigrant as we deport them and things like this. But at least there was a sliver of a recognition of their humanity, right? As we're going to do all these terrible, and that's just gone. Yeah, that's just totally gone. And you're seeing like people in the White House making memes of crying women who are being arrested by ICE agents, and it's just like, it's funny. They're making chain gang ASMR. It is sick, satanic, demonic, antichrist kind of stuff, and it's just not phasing the Christians. It's so bizarre to me. What do you make of that?
Well, I make the fact that religion has really, I grew up in the Catholic Church in the 70s. And at that point, it was all about peace and social justice. Priests were walking the picket lines. It was all about caring for the poor, the downtrodden. It was all about lending that hand. Now, the Catholic Church, they were all about greed and lining their pockets. But at least the message was to take care of each other. It was communal, as I remember. Now we've gone through the Reagan era. We've gone these years since, and it's hyper individual. We now have prosperity gospel. I'm doing well because I'm ordained or blessed from God to have all of these wonderful things. And if something bad happened to you, it's because God's angry with you. So, I actually had someone email me and told me that the reason my wife was in the accident is because of my politics. And I said, I would like your home address. I will come wherever you are. And I want you to say that to my face.
Yeah.
Because, I think people in the age of the internet, are allowed to be the worst versions of themselves. I think social media is a cesspool where people are absolutely the worst versions of themselves just to get attention. And I think religion is kind of turned in that vein. That the prosperity gospel. I'm ordained by God to be rich, and anybody who stands in the way of that, has to be dealt with. So I'm in this weird spot because I want religion, I want Christianity to be what I believe it was, something that made us want to be better people instead of worse people. But you know what? I watched them debate that bill. All of the people like Mike Johnson and all of them huddled up in a circle, like having their prayer while figuring out how to literally take food out of the mouths of children.
Yeah.
And you go, I hope there is a God, and I hope there is a judgment day, and I hope I'm standing there the day that those people have to be judged.
Right. Yeah. I mean, me too. That it is really, really, it's difficult to understand how they can kind of get where they are and keep that attitude. But that is what it is, I suppose. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.